Hello friends, welcome back to the session. So in this session, again, we will discuss on the internal table. The last session, the last video was also on the internal table. But the internal table which we have discussed, that was with the old concept. That's a part of occurs zero. But in real time, in this current days or current situation, we never work on the occur zero concept. But still we have discussed. The reason behind this, maybe in future you may get the chance to work on any support project and that project is working since last like 10 years, 15 years. In that situation, you can come across with a program which has been developed 10 years back. In that program or in those program, you might come across with the occur zero. So that was only the reason behind to discuss with the occur zero. But in current days, you never use occur zero concept. It's totally outdated. What is the reason behind this? First, we will discuss two things. One, what is the reason behind like why occur zero has been outdated? What are the of course there might be a disadvantages that the reason occur zero has been outdated. Now, what is the alternative solution to this? If we are not using occur zero concept to declare the internal table, then how we are working on the internal table? So just let me rewind you like whatever the program we have developed with the help of occur zero. So this is a syntax which we have used to declare the internal table. The syntax was the begin of the internal table name. Of course, whenever we create any object, we are supposed to provide the name, and a name is always meaningful. Like work area we have created with WA underscore followed by some name. Then similarly we use internal table IT underscore followed by some name. But in real time, again I'm repeating the same thing. In real time, every client will be having their own programming standard, own coding guidelines. So according to that, you need to declare the object. But if don't have any specific coding guidelines, then you can follow the same routine. To create the work area, go with the WA or W underscore followed by any name. So usually we supposed to create the multiple work area and the multiple internal table in the real time. So those work area and the internal table will be created against or referring to any standard database table or database table in short. So we supposed to provide the similar name which is respected to the same database table. Like here I'm working with the ZS01 underscore customer. So I have proposed the name as IT underscore CVST. So this internal table is going to hold the data from the table called ZS01 underscore customer. So somewhat similar name, right? So it's not any mandatory, but always you should prefer the meaningful name because maybe next to you some other ABAPer in your place, if he or she has joined, if he's come across with your program, then he or she should be able to understand your code. So that is only the reason. So this was with the occur zero, but occur zero is very old concept. There is some drawback. What is the drawback behind this? Like as we discussed the concept called occur zero. So with the help of occurs, like whenever we create the internal table is classified into two parts, one with the header line and the internal table body. So the first me like definition of internal table is multiple row. Internal table is nothing but multiple row. It will be used to process the multiple record. Then what is the meaning of header line? It is something like work area as we discussed in the previous session. You can find the link for the previous session in the description box for more details. So in short, with the occurs body will be created. Now in that body, how many row you are expecting? That is depends upon the size category. So here I have considered 0 as my size category, right? It can be any number. It can be 1, 2, 10, 100, 200, 500, 5000, could be anything. But what system will do internally, whatever the number you are going to provide, like whatever the number you have provided, plus one row is going to be added. Like suppose here I have provided as a 0, it means 0 plus 1. So by default, internal table body will be created with one row. If I provided 10, so 10 plus 1, by default internal table body will be created with 11 row. Now where this system get create that internal table body? That too in the application server. Once your program execution has been started, it will create header line along with the body. So header line is nothing but the work area, which is going to hold single record. Internal table is body is nothing but the multiple row. That is the difference between the header line and the body. Now you can ask me, what is the meaning of header line? Again, same. I have already discussed in detail in the previous session. You can find the link in the description box. So here we work on the internal table, but not with the occur zero. So the reason behind this is like whenever we provide the size category, based on that, the number of row is going to be created by the system itself. Now you can ask me, if I provide the 0, it means 0 plus 1. By default, internal table body will be created with plus one row, nothing but it contains at least one row. Now, what if whatever the data I'm extracting from the database, in the database you do have four rows? Does it mean only first row will be stored, remaining three record will be skipped? No. Automatically based on number of record, that internal table body row will be extended. So the occur zero meaning is what? Initially, whenever the internal table is getting allocated, the memory is getting allocated to your internal table, by default, it will be having some set of rows. That is totally depends upon the occur zero. If you provided zero, one row will be allocated. If you provided 10, 11 row will be allocated by default. Now we always go with the minimal. Like what if, like suppose if I provided the zero, then by default your internal table body will be created with one row, and from the database I'm getting the four record. Then automatically three row will get extended and it will fill the data. That is not an issue. Now suppose I'm assuming I do have four record in the database, and accordingly what you're managing, I'm providing occurs four. Then 4 plus 1 internal table body has been created with the 5 row. But knowingly, unknowingly, or fortunately, unfortunately, whatever the data you're extracting from the database, and just before your extraction, the data has been deleted from the database. Or maybe you don't have that enough data. You don't have 5 row. You do maybe have one row, or you maybe have two row, or you don't have any data. It means unnecessarily you have reserved 5 rows. It reserving the memory for the 5 rows. Even reserving the memory, you're consuming the memory of your main memory. It means again the load on the system is going to be increases. That may impact on your performance. So what we are trying to convince, like what we are trying to discuss, whatever the internal table you are going to create, let it create dynamically. What does it mean? Like whatever the number of record he is extracting from the database, based on that, let the system create the row. No need to create or allocate the memory by yourself. You should not allocate the number of row by yourself. It might be the chances like it can get the more row or it can get the less row. But the memory which you are reserving, if it's fine. If it is getting the more data, automatically the data will get extended. Whatever the memory you have allocated, that will get consumed, and then more extra row which you are getting, that will be extended. That's fine. But what if you are getting not that much number of row or data which you are extracting from the database which you have declared? You have declared with the 10 row or maybe 11 row, and you're from the database you're getting only 3 rows. Then remaining 8 row will be empty. Unnecessary you're reserving the memory. That is a wrong thing. Unnecessary you're consuming the memory. That may be impact on the performance. Now can you ask me for, like, I'm consuming only 8 row extra. Only that 8 row getting impacting on the performance. See, it is one of your program. Like multiple developer has been created the multiple program. Just think about those programs, not only yours. So one makes a many drops makes a one pot. Similarly, you need to think about in a small way also. So that's the reason we work on the internal table, but not with the occurs zero. Then what is the alternative solution for this? So before I go with the alternative solution for this occur zero, first we need to discuss on the structure. Though in like last to last session of the video, I can say before the work area, we were discussing about the ABAP programming structure. In that, I have split it into two parts. One side, the predefined, another side, the user defined. Predefined means already SAP has provided many standard objects in the format of database table, in the format of structure, table type, so on. But during the programming, we supposed to create some set of memory which will be like temporary memory, which will be during only the executions time. What kind of memory we supposed to create? One with the work area, another with the internal table. Likewise, there are two more in the pipeline, one with the structure and the table type. So here, first we need to discuss with the structure, then I will take you to the alternative solutions to the internal table except occur zero. So go with structure. Now, what is the definition of structure? Do you know, like the work area and the internal table which we discussed? What was the definition of that work area and the internal table? So work area or the internal table, it is a structure or maybe group of fields. So structure is nothing but it is a collection of a fields. Structure, it is a collection of a fields, or we can say group of fields. But if you compare the structure with work area and the internal table, now you can ask me, work area is also a structure or a group of field? Even internal table is also a structure or a group of field. Structure is itself a group of field. Then what is the difference between these three? If I make these three in a separate column, work area, it is a group of field, but it will hold single record during runtime. It will hold the record and that too only one row. One row. Column could be anything, but only one row. Internal table, it is also a group of field, means multiple column, but it might have the multiple row also, more than one, one or more than one. Structure, structure never holds the data. It is just a collection of fields. It never holds the data. Work area will hold the data. It may be one. Internal table, it will hold the data. It may be one row or multiple row. But structure never hold the data. It is just a template. It is just an assumption. It never hold any physical memory to hold the data. So that simple difference between I keep this structure in one side and the work area internal table in the another side. Structure, it is a grouping of field. Even work area internal table is also grouping of field. But the difference is work area internal table will hold the data during the runtime, whereas structure never holds the data. It is just a template. It don't have any physical memory allocation so that it never holds the data. So this is the important point. Structure never holds the data. Now you can ask me then what is the purpose of this structure? So structure will be used. The main advantage. Structure is it will be used to create work area, internal table, etc. Not only work area, it will be helpful during creation of work area in the internal table. It will be used some other stuffs also, other activity that we'll discuss in the time being. Whenever we come across with that situation, I will let you know where the structure will be useful. Now for currently, in this current example, current scenario, so the structure will be helpful during the creation of work area and the internal table. Now let's see how to create the structure. So types, as we know, every programming structure should be begin with begin of. Now if you compare the syntax, the work area, first I will go with the work area or internal table, how it has started. It has started with the data keyword, data keyword we have used. During the declaration, we have used the data keyword. Even same during the work area also. Work area has been the work area which you have created, there we have used a keyword called data. But here during the creation of structure, you are using the keyword called types. Using the types, it will create the structure. It is just a template. It is just a template, right? Whereas the memory which you want to allocate physically, so that memory will get allocated by using the data keyword. So here structure never holds the data. So no need to allocate the memory. Or itself we don't have the memory to hold the data. So if you want to create the template, then it will be used as a keyword called types. With the types, it will just create the template. It never holds any physical memory. So that's the reason structure never holds the data. So structure will be created with the keyword types. Now don't confuse with the simple plain type keyword. Even though we have discussed with this type keyword also. And this is types ending with S. So this type will be used to assign the data type like character, integer, backdecimal, floating point, such kinds of. And these types it is used to declare the structures. Same. Like during the creation of work area, how did we start at begin of? Every programming structure should start with begin of, conclude with end of. Now, if you are creating the work area, we have provided with W or WA followed by the table name. Similarly, if you are creating the internal table, we have provided IT underscore followed by name. In the same way, if you are creating the structure, then we provide with TY underscore. If you do have the coding guidelines as per the client, follow it. Otherwise, you can follow this way. Now, in this structure, what are the fields you are expecting? I'm expecting customer underscore ID in bracket 10 type C. Then name in bracket 20 type C. Then city in bracket 20 type C. And this is going to be end of ty underscore cust. So we have created the structure. Now what will happen by declaring with this? So by declaring with this, so system will create the structure. It contains some set of field like customer underscore ID, the name, and the city. So this is your structure. Structure, it is just a collection of a fields, or we can say grouping of fields. Now you can, if you want, you can declare the individual variable also. Suppose, now for example, let me compare this with the real-time scenario. Now, two or three of you colleagues staying in same area I'm talking about, and daily you're traveling to office. Now, three of you or two of you, if the timing is same, if you're working on a same project, then instead of going with the individual bike, what you can think? Let's together go in a same bike. Or maybe more than two, if three of you friend or four of you friend traveling to the same timing, same office, same project, then what do you decide? Instead of going with the four different vehicle, let's go in a common vehicle. This with there are many advantages of this. It will save your traffic. That of course, going with the four different vehicle and going with the single vehicle, that is make a lot of difference. It will save the time. It will save the petrol, the pollutions, many things, many things. Similar way, like holding the individual information of the same customer, like customer number, his name, city. These are the three information. If you are holding separately, and of course these three information belongs to the same customer, holding is separately. Instead of holding it separately, we are making a group of this, and we are holding the information in a group. Same thing we are doing. So structure, it is just a combining of your variable at one place. That makes a structure. Group, we can say grouping. Like suppose if you are going on a trip, you are going to make a trip, you are going to make a group, and then you are going to hire a common vehicle. Now suppose four of you, like five of you, maybe 10 people of you going to the same destination, you know each other, you belong to the same classmate, same, you're planning for the trip. Does it mean you're going to have the individual vehicle and go to the same place? Doesn't make any sense. To make it more enjoyable, more memorable, you're going to hire the common, right? Transportation system, and you can go together in a same vehicle. That is what structure is, a grouping of fields, right? So this is a structure which we have created in the name of ty underscore cust. But individually, structure never holds the data. Then what is the purpose of the structure? It will be used to create the work area and the internal table. Now, you know, we have created the work area as well. What was the syntax to create the work area? If I refer to my previous program, how did we declare the work area? Data, begin of, work area, cust. Now, if this syntax and this syntax, if you get compared, what differences you can find? The first difference is this ty/cust, and here you can find the types keyword. During the work area, here you can find the data keyword, which will allocate the physical memory. So here I am using the types keyword. It is just a template. It never allocates a memory. Here we are finding the work area underscore. Here we are finding the ty underscore. So this doesn't, the name make it doesn't make any sense. Only this keyword make a sense. Types and the data. Types with a template format. How does it look like? You should have some imagine. If you want to fulfill any requirement, you do have imagination. How should it look like, right? So that is something. Template is something like it should be like this, but it never have the physical memory. Now this based on structure, we are supposed to create the work area and internal table. Now how to create the work area? Now in the single line, I will create the work area and internal table. So here, data. So with the data keyword, it's going to allocate the physical memory. So what do you want to create? I want to create the work area in the name of CUST. Now this time I'm not taking as begin of, end of. See, if you go with the definition of work area, the internal table, the definition has been splitted into two parts. Now here you can see. First line is what? It is a structure or a group of field. Then it will hold the multiple record. So together in a same syntax, we are declaring the structure and we are going to allocate the memory. But here I have splitted that things into two parts. First, I have declared the structure. Now based on structure, I'm going to allocate the memory. So I'm going to create the work area. Now how this work area should look like? It should look like ty underscore cust. Simple way. First, I have declared the structure. In the one line, I have created the work area, and that should something look like ty_cust. So with this type keyword, can you see now here it's a types and here it's a just type. Type means how it should look like. It should look like of ty_cust, and with this type keyword, it will always going to have the single row. It means it will create the memory for work area, a single row, but how many columns should be there? That is something similar to ty_cust. And the ty_cust, how many columns are there? 3. Customer ID, name, city. Now this is your work area underscore cust. See, in the single row, I have created the work area, right? We are going to allocate the memory in the name of work area underscore cust. Now, in this work area, how many columns you needed? That is similar to ty_cust. In the ty_cust, how many columns you have declared accordingly, create the work area for me. It will have the single row, but columns is depends upon the structure. It means in the single row, I have created the work area, and with the same single row, I'm going to create the internal table now. So we will create the internal table in real time, but not with the occur 0. So this is the way. It underscore cust type. It should be like ty underscore cust. But do you know single row or multiple row? I need multiple row. That is a part of table of ty underscore cust. So this time I am creating the internal table, but I need multiple row. So that is a part of type table of. It can be any number, but this time you will be having the internal table, the number of row. It is totally depends upon the number of row which is extracting from the database. Now this time he is not unnecessarily reserving the number of row. This time your internal table has been created, the number of row which has been extracted by the system from the database. Unnecessarily he is not reserving the row. So this is a customer name city. Now here you can see with this type keyword, it will allocate the single row based on the number of column which you have declared in a structure. And with the help of keyword type table of, it is going to have the multiple row, not only 4, it is totally depends upon the number of row which you are extracting from the database. Now how many columns you needed? Number of row, that's fine. But how many column you needed? That is based on the structure which you have created above. So in real time, this is the way to create the work area and internal table. Now you can ask me, but if you go with the occur 0, system will create the header line plus body, both thing together. Even though we don't require the header line, nothing but the work area, system will create the header line for you. But if this time, if you are not going with the occur 0, system will create only body. but still you require the work area. Why? Of course, while extracting the data from database, you can get the data into internal table. But while moving the data from your internal table to presentation server is not possible. Directly from internal table, it is not possible to move the data to the presentation. Through work area or header line is only the way to bring the data from application to presentation. So during the occur zero concept, system is automatically creating the header line. But here we are not using the occur zero concept. So only body will get created. So here I'm explicitly work area is also getting created. So this is the way. So in real time, we never work with the occur zero concept. So alternative to the occur zero concept, this is the way. First, you can declare the structure. Based on structure, we are going to create the work area, and based on same structure, we are going to create the internal table. So we are going to create work area and internal table explicitly. Now here, I'm changing the program, developing the same program now, 0 to, I'm saying report customer list type executable should be saved in local object. Now here, very first, provide tables declaration. I'm working with the tables ZS01 underscore customer. Then we are going to provide declaration for what? Data objects. It can be our work area, internal table, so on. So this time I'm creating the structure first. Instead of creating the work area internal table with the occur zero directly, first I'm creating the structure. Begin of ty underscore anything. CUST. Customer ID. Type C. Name. Type C. City. Type C. And this is going to be end of ty underscore CUST. Once after creating the work area, sorry, structure, I'm creating the work area, CUST type, TYCUST, ITCUST, type, table of TYCUST. So with this type keyword, it will allocate the single row. But how many columns you needed, that is depends upon the structure which you have already created. So in that structure, you do have 3 columns. So with this 3 column, it will create a single row in the name of work area underscore CUST. With the same 3 column, it is going to have the multiple row because you do have type table of. So you have created work area in the internal table explicitly. Now we are going to provide extraction logic. So select customer ID, name, and the city. From where? Into where? IT underscore CUST. Right? Now from here, I'm providing the processing logic. So what are the things I'm writing in gray color, commented line we can say. It doesn't mean that in real time you need to write this format only. It could be any line. It's your way of thought process. What you're thinking, what logic you're achieving. Accordingly, you need to write the comments. But here I'm just giving you the hint, clue. Like if I want to write a simple program, what steps I need to follow. Like suppose you're starting like learning a new bike or four-wheeler. There are some steps. So you switch on the engine, then press the clutch, then take the like first gear. You need to put your in the first gear. Then slowly you need to according like as you know. Similarly, I'm just giving you the hint. If you want to if you want to write the simple program, what steps I need to follow, from where I need to start it. So these are the 4 hint. First, what are the set of tables you are using? Declare those. Then what are the set of data objects you are working on, like set of work area, maybe structure, maybe internal table, that you need to declare it. Thereafter, your extraction logic, whatever the data you want to extract from the different database table. Not only one. Of course, we will go with the different some complex level logic, that is the future sessions. So not only one, in real time, you need to work with simultaneously more than one table also, maybe two, three, four, five, 10 together. Then we need to combine the data. Sometimes you need to have some additional calculation logic, and then we need to display it. So these are the, just I'm giving you the hint how to progress. Then where is your data? Internal table IT underscore CUST. This time you have not created the header line. Instead, you have created the internal table work area separately. So you are creating only internal table. So internal table is not enough. That's fine. With the help of internal table, you can bring the data from database to application server. But from application server, you cannot directly display the data to the presentation through internal table. No, you must go with either work area or header line. So here we are not using the occur zero. So system is not creating the header line, but instead we have created the work area explicitly. Okay. So then write work area underscore CUST hyphen customer ID, work area underscore CUST hyphen name, then work area underscore CUST hyphen city. Just save the program, syntax check, then activate. Now your program is active, but your program is not in proper format as decided by the SAP. So the select statement is supposed to expected to start from the first position. It has started somewhere in the middle. Even this loop expected to start from the first position, started somewhere in the middle. Then how to do? Don't do the backspace, click on pretty printer. It will get a line. Activate. It doesn't mean that if you're not if you're not doing the pretty printer, you'll not get the result. No, you'll get the result. It has nothing to do with your result. Just click on execute. So this is the results. So I will just compare the program with your previous, like whatever the program internal table which you have created with the occur zero concept. So I will open another session by using this new GUI window. Go to SC38. Sorry. Okay. So this is my first program. I will take this right hand side, and this is my second program. See, now you can just observe. Here we have used occur zero. With the help of it will create the internal table plus body with the same name. So that's the reason we are moving the data from body to header line. But here we are not working with the occur zero concept. Instead, we have created the work area internal table explicitly. First, we have declared the structure. Based on structure, we have created the work area with a single row. Based on the work area, we have created the internal table with the multiple row. So we have extracted the data from database to the internal table. From there, we are looping towards the work area, and from there, we are going to display. So in real time, we will work on the internal table, but not with the occur zero. So now, addition to this, in real time, we will work on the internal table, of course, not on the occur zero. Instead, we will create the structure. Based on structure, we are going to create the work area and the internal table. Now, what is the syntax behind to create the work area and internal table? So this is the declaration for the structure. Once after declaring the structure, we are going to create the work area with the help of this type keyword. So with this type keyword, it will create a single row, but column will be decided based on the structure. So in this structure, what are the number of column you have declared? Accordingly, it will create a single row. And with the help of type table of, it will create a multiple row. With the type keyword, single row. With the type table of multiple keywords. But the thing is that in real time, this type table of will not be supported everywhere. Or I can say in certain situation, this type table of will not be supported. Then, so especially we use this keyword to have the multiple row. So column will be decided based on the structure. In the TYCVST, how many columns you have created, based on that, he is going to allocate the memory, and with the help of type table of, it is going to create the multiple row. As I discussed, in real time, in certain situation, the type table of will not be supported. Then we do have the alternative solution for this called data. I can say IT underscore CUST So if the type table of is not supporting in certain situation, the alternative to this is like keyword. Like ty underscore cust occurs 0 with header line. So this is the syntax. If the type table of is not supporting in certain situation, the alternative to the type table of is like keyword. So here also we are going to create the internal table by referring to the structure. But again, ultimately what keyword you are using? Occur 0. If you are using the like keyword, then you need to specify this one. Occur 0 with the header line. Again, round and round. We again came back to the same situation. As we discussed, we create an internal table, but not with the occur 0. Because one is unnecessarily it's creating the number of row. It is allocating the number of row unnecessarily. Suppose if you say taken this minimum as a 0 also, unnecessary it will create a plus 1 row for you. If you are not received any record, unnecessary the memory will be reserved for that. So even the like is outdated concept. We should never use the like keyword in real time. See, along with the development, we also need to take care about the performance. How, what is the performance of your program? Suppose you have developed any program, that's fine. Based on your input, the data is getting filtered properly, you are getting the desired result. But how much time it is taking, that also matter. So ideally it should take around 2 or 3 or 4 seconds, but your program is taking 2 minutes or 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes. Then what's the use? So as per standard SAP, but time limit you can set anything, but as per standard SAP, any program, if it is taking more than 7 minute 59 second, ideally, if any program is taking more than 7 minute 59 second, your program will lead into an error. And that error we can say dump. The kind of error we can say dump, and that dump is related to the timeout. So this is a standard limit. You can change it. That limit is going to be changed by the basis consultant, but this is the standard time. If any program is taking more than 7 minute 59 second, that will be lead into as soon as it reach to 8 minutes. I can say if you go with the microsecond also, something like 59 again. As soon as it reaches to 8 minutes, your program will be run into time error, and that error is related to the timeout. So if your program is taking the longer time, then there is no any use. So along with that, we need to take care about the performance. So it will again occur as a part of performance issue. Then what is the solution for this? Yes, alternate. So in certain situation, if type table of is not supporting, we go with the like. Again, like is a drawback. So alternative to this, we go with the table type. So again, the table type is a component of, or I can say data object of ABAP programming structure. You know, in the ABAP programming structure, the four things: work area, internal table, the structure which we have discussed. Next is table type. So table type is alternative to the type table of. So now what is the meaning of table type? So here I can say table type, again it is a structure or group of field with multiple row. It contains always dynamic number of row. Now, if you refer to the structure, how your structure will look like, what is the meaning of structure? It is just a collection of fields. But the thing is that structure never holds the data. Even your table type will also never holds the data. I can say it never holds the data. It will never also hold the data. Structure, so if I go with the structure, what is the definition of structure? It is just a collection of fields. It is just a collection of fields. Whereas table type is a collection of fields plus row. It contains always multiple row plus multiple columns. Table type always contains the multiple row and the multiple column. But the thing is that it never holds the data. Only the work area and the internal table. The object which we are going to define by using the data keyword, only those objects will be having the physical memory. Only those objects can hold the data. But apart from data keyword, whatever the keywords we are using to declare the data object, suppose I'm declaring the structure with the help of type keywords. If you are declaring anything with the type keywords, then it is not an memory, physical memory. Instead, it's just a template, assumptions, right? So structure, it is just a collection of fields, but it never holds the data. Then what is the purpose of structure? It will be used to create the work area in the internal table. If you want to create the work area, then the reference will be type keyword. If you want to create the internal table, then the reference will be type table of. So with this, what is going to do? He is going to create the multiple row and the multiple column. Even the definition of table type is what? It is a collection of a field plus row as well. Now you can ask me, if it is a collection of a fields and the row is nothing but equals to internal table only, right? But the thing is that it never holds the data. It is something look like an internal table only, but it never holds the data. And table type will always be created based on the structure. It will always created based on the structure. So without structure, it is not possible to create the table type. So table type always created based on the structure. It will something look like this only after creation, but only the difference is it never holds the data. Then you can ask me, what is the purpose of this table type? So table type, it is specifically and it is mainly used to create internal table. So type table of will not be supported in certain situation. The alternative to the type is like keyword. Again, like is a part of occur zero only. Again, it was a drawback. So alternative to this is table type. So what we supposed to do in real time, based on structure, we are going to create the work area. Again, based on the structure, we are going to create the table type. So table type always created based on the structure. Without structure, it is not possible to create the table type. First, you need to define the structure. And based on structure only, we are going to create the table type. Now, how to create the table type? Now, already we have defined the structure over here. Types begin of divide CUSD in that field so and so, and this is the format. This is the template. And based on this template, we have created this internal table. Now, I am going to create the table type based on the structure. So, syntax will be again types. Both structure and the table type will be created by using the types keyword only. Then tt underscore cust, like the structure we have created with the name ty underscore cust. Similarly, the table type will be created with the some naming convention like tt underscore. The name itself specify represent as table type. See, as again, bottom line is what? Every client will be having their own programming guidelines. If you don't have, then follow the same which I'm following. Otherwise, you can follow as per the client standard. So work area, either W or WA, then internal table, of course IT, then if you want to create the structure, TY, if you want to create the table type, TT. Then type table of TY underscore CUST. Now, can you observe these two syntax? This one with data, IT underscore CUST, type table of TY underscore CUST, and this one. Both line is same. Like here we have taken the IT CUST with the type table of TY CUST. Here we have taken TT CUST, type table of TY CUST. But the difference is what? Here we have used the data keyword, we have used the type keyword. So with this syntax, what will happen? In the TY CUST, how many columns are there? In the TY CUST, how many columns are there? There are three columns, customer ID, name, and the city. And with the type table of, as we know, it will create the multiple row. It is something like this. But row will be dynamic again. Row will be dynamic. Customer ID, name, and the city. So customer ID, name, and the city. And what we have created? The table type, TT underscore CUST. It is now you can just make a difference of these two. Does it, do you any feel the difference between these two? The internal table and the table type? Both are looking the same. But the difference is that it has been created with the data keyword, so it can hold the data. It can hold the data because it's a physical memory. It is just a template. It is just a template. It never holds the data. It never holds the data. Then you can ask me what is the use of this? See, as we discussed, we will create an internal table with a type table of the keyword called type table of with reference to structure. But in certain situation, type table of will not be supported. Then we have created the table type. Now, with reference to this, I am going to create the internal table like data it underscore cust type. So earlier, based on structure, if you are creating the internal table, we were using type table of. Table of means multiple row. Now already based on this TYCUST, we have created the table type. It means already it is having the number of column plus number of rows. With the same, I need some memory. So we are going to say that this is your IT underscore CUST based on TT underscore CUST. Means here based on table type. So this is your table type. Now based on table type, with the help of type keyword, we are going to create the internal table. So, so this table type is already created based on the structure, and this structure contains the number of column. So based on that, we have created a number of row. So this is somewhat like ready-made. The number of rows and columns are ready-made. Accordingly, we are going to allocate the memory. So in real time, if you are creating the internal table with the type table of, in certain situation, type table of will not be supported. So we first create the table type. Again, table type contains a multiple column with multiple row, but it never holds the data. But based on internal table, we are going, sorry, based on the table type, we are going to create the internal table. So this is the syntax. Now, if I refer back to the program which I have created, now this one, instead this one, okay. So here you can see this is the structure which I have created, and based on structure I have created the work area with reference to type. Based on structure I have created the internal table with reference to type table of. But in certain situation type table of will not be supported. Then what we are going to do, we are going to create the table type in any name tt underscore cust type table of tycust. Now with reference to this table type, we are going to create the internal table. So I can say data it underscore cust type tt underscore cust. Now this is a structure, and based on structure, if you are using the type keyword, it will create a single row. Now based on the ttcust, now ttcust already itself contains a multiple row. An internal table also needs the multiple row. You can just assign the memory with the head. See, if you are creating the internal table based on the table type, you can just use the type keyword. But if you are using creating the internal table with the help of structure, then we need to use the type table of. But in certain situation, type table of will not be supported. So see here, I have created the work area based on structure. I have created the internal table based on the table type. So this is all about the internal table. So that's it. If you like, suppose if you click on execute, you'll get the same result. There is no any changes. Now, if you want to make me the difference between all those things, again, debugging is the solution. That's it. Thank you.